Right, it is 10:02, so we'll go ahead and get started. Just want to say thank you again for everyone coming today. We're excited to hear from you, excited to see what questions you may have. My name is Jacoby Waldron. I'm an academic recruiter advisor in the Office of Transfer Student Success. I've been at USF in a couple positions for about 6 years now, and currently finishing up my last semester of coursework for my PhD in higher ed. So all USF, they keep me busy, very happy to be here. And talk to you all, and I'll be the moderator for this session. And so we have some awesome alum who I'll give Kelsey and Rachel a chance right now to introduce themselves. Kelsey, if you want to go ahead and start.
Yeah. Hi guys, happy to have you all here today. I graduated from USF back in 2019, and I had a great experience at USF. It took me 3 years to complete my degree there, and within the last 2 years, I found psychology, which was a huge passion of mine. And I decided to pursue that further with a graduate degree in industrial organizational psychology from Middle Tennessee State University. And I am currently working for a consulting agency who works with public and private sectors. So that's where I'm currently at.
Awesome. Thanks, Kelsey. Rachel?
Hey y'all, I'm Rachel. I graduated from USF in December of 2020. I got my bachelor's degree in sociology from USF with a concentration in inequalities and social justice. And I'm currently an FSU sociology PhD student. I'm on my first year, so first of 5.
That's awesome. Thank you so much. And so again, thank you all for coming. Very lucky that we have Kelsey and Rachel here to talk to you all. So again, if you're at the Major Expo, if that's what you're hoping to attend, you're in the right spot. And so again, hopefully you all have some questions for us. Feel free to throw those in the chat. When you're not asking a question, just make sure that you mute yourself and keep your video off. Unless you have a question, then go ahead and turn it on. We would love to see that face when you ask the question. And it is being recorded, just so everyone knows. We want to be able to share this valuable information in the future. So just know that it is being recorded. And so let's see. Like I said, I know a couple people just hopped on, but again, we're hoping that this is more of a conversation between us and that we hear from you all rather than a presentation. But each alum does have a very brief intro of themselves that they just shared. But if you all have some questions, I've got some to throw out to them. But just first from the group, does anyone here have any questions for Kelsey or Rachel or things on their mind? Or if anyone wants to just introduce themselves and what majors they're thinking about, that'd be great too. And see, I know we got a couple people active in the chat. Andrew, you there? Okay, let's see. So Andrew's got a question. What are your all's opinions on psychedelics for therapy?
I personally don't have an opinion because I'm not an expert in that area, so I can't give any opinion on that.
I also agree sociology, it doesn't really directly correlate with therapy. However, if you're interested, there is a subsection of sociology that does take a look at drugs specifically, and it's a whole field. And there is a professor at USF who specializes in that field. So if you're interested, feel free to private message me. I can hook you up. We're buddies, and you can learn more about that.
Jacob, you're on mute.
Thank you. Appreciate it. So I can start with, yeah, Andrew, of course, no problem at all. Anyone else has questions, feel free to throw them in the chat. But to start, I guess, for Kelsey and Rachel, what is your biggest advice for finding a major, career, passion? How did you get there? What are some tips that you learned along the way of getting to where you are now?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and start. So for me, I had 3 kind of different ideas of what I wanted to do when I started at USF seeking a bachelor's degree. I was an exploratory curriculum major like yourselves, just trying to figure it out. I was kind of drawn to business, I was drawn to psychology, and I was drawn to the fashion industry in general. And just through taking different courses within my first semester and kind of trying out different things, I was able to pinpoint what I was truly passionate about, which was psychology. And psychology is so broad in itself. There is clinical, industrial, organizational, social. So there's many facets of psychology. And so in my effort of narrowing that down, I connected with the department by working with faculty members, graduate students, just getting some more insight on IO psychology specifically, because I was a little bit more interested in that. I liked the business aspect along with studying human behavior. So just getting connected to the department, meeting faculty members, meeting other students who are like-minded and similar and share those same interests as you do, kind of really helped me narrow that focus and really come to find something that I truly love doing.
For me, I didn't originally come to USF. I was a transfer student into USF. I was actually at a private school in California for a hot second. And I really liked that school, particularly because it had a minor in nonprofit management. And that was something that at the time I really could see myself I was gravitated towards that, and I could see myself going along that path. But that was only a minor, so I obviously had to choose a major. And as I was looking at the course website, I saw that sociology was related to that minor, and I was like, I read about it. It seemed kind of like it clicked with my interest. And so I kind of just jumped in with both feet to that one, and I ended up falling in love with it. Obviously, I did transfer to USF, and I am super happy that I made that decision. And I continued on with sociology, and I absolutely loved it. But if you're currently unsure about exactly what major to go into and you have a lot of variety, I would highly recommend taking a look at the website. Every major should have a website. To kind of prep for this, I was actually looking at the USF Sociology website, and it has a ton of information for whatever step you are. If you're interested in majors, minors, it kind of outlines your path for that. And alongside, there's advisors that you can talk to and that can kind of give you more of a idea of what you should expect, so that's kind of what I would advise. And if you're not comfortable talking to advisors, that's okay, but they're here to help, also professors, and also you can sample classes as well, and you can go to you all have like general eds that you have to take. So sociology, particularly, I think the intro to sociology one does count for a lot of requirements as well. So that's definitely a cool benefit. And then just a little bit more about sociology as a major, because I know some of y'all are probably like, what exactly is that? It sounds a lot like psychology, but like, what is it? So it's basically the study of humans and social life. So it is very similar, I would say, adjacent to psychology, but it's more on a broader community level. Because it's such a broad major, there are numerous subsections within sociology that range. They're very drastic. So it goes into, there's education, there's family, like I mentioned before, there's drugs, there's crime, there's economics, there's demography, there's basically anything that you would be interested in that involves one person or a couple people is a subsection of sociology. And because of that, the career opportunities are they're pretty limitless. So social services, educational institutions, human resources, government, criminal justice, I could go on, but I don't want to ramble. So that's kind of how I got interested in that.
That's awesome. Thank you both so much. And I echo what they both say. And also, I'm going to put a link for the catalog here as well. So in A to Z order, all of our majors are listed here. I know the catalog can be sometimes hard to kind of get through, but it really is once you kind of understand the sections. It starts with the prereqs of the things that you have to complete for the major, especially that's relevant for students who are wanting to transfer over here, or if you're about to start your upper electives. But if you scroll to the bottom, there's some good info there. There's actually a 4-year plan and a 2-year plan. So you can actually see semester by semester plans for that major. And I think what they both said, along with just going in the catalog and seeing what classes you would take for each major, I feel like that gives you such a good feel for it, because you can actually see the classes that are required, the classes you get to choose from, and you can click on that class, see the class name, description. You can do some more research from there. And so I think just seeing, a good way to get a vibe or what you can expect from a major really is going through what kind of classes am I going to be taking? How would I set up my schedule? And also, I think Rachel said a good thing there as well, too, that made me think about and for both of you, what resources at USF helped you succeed inside the classroom and outside the classroom? Because I know you talked about meeting with advisors and the professors especially really inside the classroom, but what other resources at USF would you suggest?
Yeah, so kind of piggybacking off of what Rachel had mentioned was those department websites. I know for the psych department, they would use our website very consistently, and they would advertise for different events that they were hosting. So for instance, in October, I think it usually is, they host a Psych Expo, and that's an opportunity for graduate students and undergraduate students to share about the research that they're doing. And so that was definitely a wonderful event that's put on by the department that I attended while at USF, and that helped me to meet other people and get to know what they were studying and where maybe I could fit in to be a research assistant potentially, and get to know people that way as well. So definitely attending department hosted events is another great way to get connected. I know for the psych department as well, there's an honor society. I hope and I believe that there's probably other honor societies for other departments as well. So that's another great way to get connected and meet with other students and just learn a little bit more about the fields of interest that you do have.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Personally, the website thing just helped me a ton. I would say I am more of an introvert until I kind of warm up to people. And so it can be a little bit of a challenge to just, go in and talk to somebody. And so getting that background research, and again, this just kind of worked for me, but getting that kind of background research allowed me to have a little bit more knowledge. So then when I did go in and speak with faculty or advisors, I knew what questions to ask, if that makes sense. But even if y'all go in completely blind, not knowing what to ask, just being like, hey, I'm kind of interested in this, that's their job. They're here to help you. So you don't have to do the research or anything like that. Other than the websites, I would continue to advise talking to faculty, taking advantage of those office hours. If you don't know them, you can try to find a syllabus, or you could just send them an email and be like, hey, can we set up a meeting? When are you free? Here's my availability. Faculty, pretty much every faculty I've ever interacted with are very receptive to that. And now that I'm in grad school, I'm interacting with a ton of faculty, and they love talking to students, and they love assisting and helping you figure out your future. That's kind of why they do what they do, I also agree with clubs and organizations. Sociology does have an honors club or honors organization, and it also has a sociology club as well, which is more of a casual, kind of doing a little bit of like activism stuff. When I was there, they had a bit of an environmental kind of lens. I'm not entirely sure what they're doing now because it's, again, sociology is a very broad major, but I know that they work on community, and they work on bettering the general community around USF. It's called like the Sociology / Interdisciplinary Social Sciences Club. And any other organizations. They don't just have to be major specific, but resources to get you plugged in socially are really, really helpful. I would say that's probably one thing that I regret while I was at USF. I graduated really fast, and I didn't really plug in as much as I could have and as much as I should have. But clubs definitely helped me to get there. I was also I was the president of it was called the Transfer Student Honor Society. Why can't I remember the name? Oh, it was called Tau Sigma, sorry. And That helped me to connect with transfer students, and it also helped me to just get some friends there as well. And there's just a lot of resources. It's just kind of about finding where they are. And that's why y'all are here, to help figure out where your resources are.
Thank you both so much. I couldn't agree more. I think exactly what they're saying. I think it's so important to talk to the people around you, whether that's your professors, your advisors, your friends, family, guardians, anyone that you know. I think it's just as much as you can hear from others' perspectives of their journey or their thought process or how they got to the major they got to or the career they got to, because what other people are doing, you're not going to find anyone who is like, yep, that's the answer. That's exactly what I want to do. I think there are a few of us in life that get that, and those are really the lucky ones. But I think it's about pulling different things that you can attribute to yourself or that align up with your goals, your characteristics, and your values, or kind of the path that you would want to go on, and just pulling from different people's different pieces of how they've done it and applying it to yourself. I think just hearing from as many people as possible is so important. And so I think that's why what they said about joining clubs, organizations, going to the Academic Success Center, going to career services, taking assessments, just doing things and talking to other people. You just never know what you're going to hear that's going to shock you and it's going to relate to you. That's really going to be like, wow, I can actually see myself doing something like that or going on that exploration for this major. And so just talk to as many people as you can. And so you got 3 people right here are happy to talk to you whenever. You got a lot of great people in undergraduate studies and just all over USF. And like Alicia said as well, too, we'll make sure to get Kelsey and Rachel's emails here in the chat as well, too. Alexandra, how did you find those honor societies? So I know Tau Sigma, that's one you're automatically invited to, but do you all have advice on how to find other societies? I would say Bulls Connect is a great way to find different clubs and organizations on campus. And I would say probably on the department websites, they should probably list something about the honor societies as well. Right. Yeah, go ahead, Rachel.
Yeah, I was just trying to think if there was anything else to add on to that. I would say the department websites, and if they don't, I know some departments don't necessarily regularly update their websites or the contact info. Feel free to ask a professor. There's also always a department chair of the major. I don't know, for my major, it was Dr. Chris Pomicelli. I don't know if she's still the department head for undergrads, but if not, you can always find that on the website and just email them directly and be like, hey, what, I want to get involved in honors organizations or honor societies. How can I get involved? And they'd be happy to help you out with that. Also, your advisor will be able to assist you with that as well. And then other clubs, yeah, I just completely agree, both.
Awesome. I know we have a couple people that just joined us. And so if you have any questions at all, feel free to shout it out, unmute yourself, or throw it in the chat. We're all happy to help answer any questions you may have. But one other question I did have, is there anything, because a lot of these students are about to declare their major at the end of the semester. And so was there anything that surprised you when you declared for your major? Anything about the process, the logistics, or the actual major itself that surprised you, or something you wish you would have known before you started the major, or any advice at all for these students who are about really on the edge they know what they want to do and they're about to declare? Any tips or advice there?
I know for myself, I kind of remember it being very exciting, but very anticlimactic too at the same time. It's like, wow, I finally made this monumental decision in my undergraduate career. Now what? Now I just attend classes to achieve that degree. But it is a very exciting time. And also don't feel like you're pigeonholed into this degree if you realize a semester in that it's just not for you. It's okay to change your major. There's nothing wrong with that. It's good that you're in tune with yourself enough to know that that's not right for you. So, ride on that train of excitement. And if it's just not feeling good, then go ahead and switch and it'll be okay.
Completely agree with that. And also, once you decide your major and once you're relatively certain on it, just continue to make progression towards getting that degree. Checking degree work regularly, meeting with your advisor regularly. You do want to graduate, obviously, that's kind of your goal there. So, you want to make sure that you're getting awesome electives and awesome opportunities, but, as well as getting those required courses and meeting those benchmarks and those timelines as well. So once you, choose your major, that's amazing. That's like the awesome, kind of first step. And then you just have, a very exciting path. You have your path more defined, and just make sure you're relatively sticking to it.
Exactly. And I echo what they both said again here as well, too. And I think something Kelsey said made me think about when you're going into your major, I think it's also important to know and I think some of you are doing this in some of your IDS classes, but really exploring your own strengths, your own weaknesses, your own character values. And so I think knowing what's important to you and what you want to get out of the major, and really what you hope to do with the major, and that's going to change. Like, you think you know what you want to do with your major, and like they said, you could switch majors, or you could be in the same major and switch what you want to do with it. So I think as much as you can, try to just check in with yourself consistently and know what's important to you, because it's going to shift over time, and kind of where your values are and kind of where you want to go with it. So doing those Myers-Briggs, so there's different character value tests, and just knowing what's important to you. Also, I think that's going to help you in your group work when you get to these classes as well, too. What role do you play on a team in group work? Are you going to be someone who kind of leads the charge, or you have a strength in a specific team role that you can bring to the team? Are you really good at design? Are you really good at research? Just finding out those things is going to make you more confident, and I think it's just going to ease the anxiety of doing group work and actually diving into your major as well, too. Yeah, and exactly what Rachel said, right? Flexibility is the key there. So kind of jumping into where the world is today and how just prevalent and relevant graduate school is now, and so, or professional certificates. So do you all have any advice on students about graduate school or certificates, or what they can do to be competitive for whether that's graduate school or entry-level careers afterwards? What other things can they do to be competitive?
Yeah, so something I would recommend to start out with first is just identifying whether a graduate level degree, and at what level, whether it's master's or PhD, will add market value to yourself when you enter the market. Is it worth that while for you to get that graduate degree Is that going to increase your salary? Is that going to increase your experience level or set of skills? Make sure you identify that before making that decision, because you don't want to spend time getting further education if you could have just been gaining experience for the past couple of years. And if you do identify that that is right for you, then I say go ahead and, I'm so sorry. I'll let her finish and then I'll come back.
All right, I'll jump in. Well, your puppy's been being a little chatty. I agree. Yeah, grad school is definitely a very personal decision, and you have to kind of have a little bit of a grasp on what it is. And I know that's really challenging unless you know people in it, or unless you have spoken to people that are in it currently. So personally, as somebody who just kind of hopped into grad school, I would highly advise, there's a lot that you can do to be competitive going into grad school. And I would advise just being involved in clubs, trying to become, a well-rounded student, what you were looking for when you were doing undergrad applications. Kind of grad schools are looking for similar things: well-roundedness, being a part of clubs, honor societies. I would also highly recommend undergrad research opportunities. USF has a ton, so try to get plugged into that. I'll admit I did not do that, but I still got admitted to a grad program. So you don't need it, not at all, but it helps. Anything, things like that assist. Also, particularly with grad school, if you're planning on going there, I would advise you to do some research. Not every grad school is the same. They all have different goals. They all have different ways of doing it. For example, mine is geared towards a PhD. Some students do get their master's and then leave, but it's mainly geared towards students who want to do the full thing, stay 5 years and get a PhD as well as a master's. And mine also is fully funded, and I get a stipend by doing a graduate assistantship every semester. Not every program is like that, and so you have to, feel out what you're comfortable with financially and what you're comfortable with program-wise. A lot of them have very different vibes, and you can really only kind of feel that out by if you have the resources, by going and touring, or by reaching out to the faculty members, by just kind of setting up Zoom meetings or anything like that. And also the easiest one is just going on their websites and checking. So all that to say, for undergrad, I would just advise try to get plugged in, try to get involved in organizations, do some internships, and then do some research early on to see if grad school is the right fit, and if it is, what programs and what schools are a right fit.
And coming back in, I will add to that, keep an open mind if you do decide to pursue that graduate degree in which school that you want to go to. I know I applied to 3 schools for a graduate program, and the one on the very bottom of my list is the one I ended up attending, and I had the best experience ever. I think I got the most out of grad school possible. So just keep a very open mind. I highly recommend attending or visiting the school if you have that opportunity, just to get a feel for the culture, get a feel for the faculty, get an understanding of or perspective from the current students and what it's like being a student in that program. So definitely do some research, like they're saying, and make sure you know what you're signing yourself up for too.
I agree, Kelsey. Not the school. Same with school-wise. FSU wasn't my top choice, and kind of just by what I was accepted to, I ended up, deciding to go here, and I love it. The community is amazing. The people are great, and I couldn't imagine myself navigating. Again, I know I'm new, but I couldn't imagine myself going any other route. And I think it's important to be open-minded. At the beginning, I was kind of a little bit prideful and a little bit upset that this is the path I'm going, but in the end, it's about getting that PhD, and it's about doing what I'm really passionate about. And it's about the program and the people. And so I'm really happy with my decision. And I think that had I done a little bit more research and connected with more people beforehand, I wouldn't have felt those negative emotions at all, because it is a great program.
Yeah, thank you both so much. I think it's great advice. I think some of the best stories or experiences you hear about are people just falling into grad school, like not really sure. They apply to a few different places, not sure what they want to do. Something clicks. They meet the right person. They go doing what they say, going visiting a campus or going to talk to an advisor. You just click and you get that feeling, which I hope a lot of you felt the same when you saw USF or you visited USF. You're like, yep, this is a school I want to go to. And so I'm not sure what major I want to go to, but this is a school. And it's the same thing for graduate school. And so I have a similar story to where I was a senior, not sure what I wanted to do. I was in student government, and I just made the right connections and relationships with administrators through student government to where they pushed me in the right direction for grad school and gave me great recommendations. And so I think doing the research, knowing what's needed, it's a weird time with the GRE right now. So I know the last year, because of COVID, it's been waived for a lot of programs. So that's been huge for a lot of people who weren't able to get past that barrier. But just know what they need and just set yourself up. But also, if you don't and you're just figuring out along the way, there's a lot of people who can vouch for that experience too, just kind of going in blindly and falling into there. And so Andrew asked about the finances of grad school, and like they said, it's kind of different everywhere. But with graduate school, you hear a lot about assistantships. And so kind of what I think Rachel or Kelsey, they said they were talking about the stipend. And so I know personally for my assistantship, I had my tuition paid for, and I got a stipend as well that pretty much covered housing and some other living expenses. So it didn't necessarily cover everything, but it was a pretty good chunk of change, especially for getting my tuition free. So at that point, it was like, if I'm not sure what I want to do with life yet, how can I pass up this opportunity? And then to actually go into and fall in love with higher education, kind of what I was doing was just a lucky occurrence that happened for me. But there are a lot of assistantships out there that do that. And so assistantships don't necessarily need to be in the department or school that you're actually getting your graduate school from. There's a lot of students or co-grads with me that worked in housing or student success that were getting their master's for communication, their master's for all these different things that weren't the same program as me, but we had the same assistantship. And so know that you're not locked into one silo, one barrier for that as well too. And so I think it's a great opportunity if you do find yourself in it, but just do the research and then make connections and relationships with people. You never know, having a conversation with staff or faculty advisor of something you're interested in or a goal or a dream that you have, what that could lead to. Because they could be like, oh, actually, I know someone, or hey, actually, I can recommend you to this program down here. And I think that's also a great opportunity for people who maybe want to travel and see if they could live somewhere else. Maybe some of you have lived in Tampa your whole life, and you're like, man, maybe I wish I could just kind of get a year or two of figuring out what it's like to live somewhere else. And so I know in graduate school, pretty much every my program, that's kind of their philosophy. I just want to leave for a little bit. I want to leave for a year or two, get this free master's degree, and then kind of see if I can live somewhere else besides, for you all, Tampa, Florida. And so I think it's just a great opportunity to really get in touch with the culture of another city, because sometimes you'll go and visit a city for a weekend, you go for a week to visit, and you kind of get the touristy feel, you don't know what it's like. But when you're in graduate school there, you really get a feel for the culture, the people, and what it would be like to live in that place or just somewhere outside of Tampa. Someone asked, when should we start looking into grad school? I mean, I don't really know if there's a time that's too early. I think maybe after you get through your freshman year and really ingrain yourself in the culture at USF and get involved. But I think even that's not too early as well either. I think as early as you want to start exploring graduate school and what you want to do, I think that only puts you in a better position. And I'll let Kelsey and Rachel speak on that as well.
Yeah, I would say earlier is better too. Just getting a sense of what are the requirements to be admitted into the program. It's a good idea to have a nice picture of what that looks like, whether it's a GPA requirement, whether it is some standardized test score. You want to make sure that you're setting yourself up for success in those application processes by having everything lined up well in advance, and knowing too when those applications do close. So you want to have those dates marked on your calendar so that you don't miss them. And you'll also have to collect letters of recommendations from faculty members. So you want to give them plenty of time to write those things out for you. So I would say, I know for myself, I started planning a year to a year and a half prior to graduating from USF. Just the application process itself, just so I could be prepared, have plenty of time to study for that GRE, and use those scores to apply. So give yourself plenty of time so you're not pushed up against the wall come crunch time on those dates, and yeah, you'll be good.
Yeah, I agree. More time is always helpful. If you find yourself not having that much time, that's okay as well. I could have given myself more time. It just we always say that. We always could give ourselves more time. And so wherever you're at in your process, that's fine. But it's great that y'all, most of y'all are kind of early on in this process, in this whole undergrad career, I suppose. So thinking about this now is really awesome. I would also recommend not only looking at the requirements to get in, but also the requirements to progress through the graduate program. A lot of them are pretty rigorous, and that is something that you need to know going into it, that it's it's different to undergrad. It's very independent, no hand holding, and you have to do a lot of the work on your own time. I only have classes 4 days a week, and one of them's on Zoom. And other than that, I have free time. And so it's very easy to fall into that habit of, oh, I'm just going to hang out. And then, oh, no, assignments to do on Sunday. I have to get it all done then. That won't fly in grad school. It will in undergrad sometimes, but not in grad school. So just kind of understanding and make sure that y'all are up for that, the rigor and the change, like the shift in mentality. But as long as y'all know that and you are prepared for that, then go right ahead. I completely agree.
Yeah, that's great advice. I think, again, just knowing yourself and knowing what you're capable of and what you want and the time of your life that you want it as well, too, because it is, you're going to be working a full-time job and have a lot of late classes. And so I always equate it to going to the gym. I always think about going to the gym all day. I'm pumped for it. And then 4 or 5 p.m. rolls around and I'm like, oh, there's no way I'm going to the gym. Same thing for classes in the PhD program. I'm like, oh, yep, I'm excited for class. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be engaged. And then it really takes effort for that night. And it sounds silly, but I'm sitting in a classroom for 3 hours. It's a lot different from working out. But it takes the focus and the intentionality to actually be there and be present. And like they said earlier as well, too, you have a great opportunity to do research as an undergrad at USF, one of the top research institutions in the country. And in graduate school, you're going to be writing and doing research in some capacity. So getting that experience now, I think, is crucial. And kind of to transition, I know a lot of you may be forward thinking and like, okay, like I know what I want to do with my major, but I'm not sure what career I want to do with it or about just the logistics of the career process. And so I'm going to ask Rachel and Kelsey just to share one thing, the best thing about your career search and the hardest thing for looking at a job after you got your degrees as well, too. I think my thing is just do the mock interviews, do them, because I think that it's scary to do mock interviews. I think we get in our head and we get nervous and anxious, but doing mock interviews with a friend or a professor or a colleague or an advisor or a mentor, I think it's going to just put you in a much better position, and it's going to help your nerves so much when you're actually in the interview for the career you want and the job you want, and you can be more yourself. And I know a lot of people just push off mock interviews because whatever, there's a scare factor. I think just do the mock interviews. I think it's going to help you out, but I'll let Kelsey and Rachel jump in too.
Yeah, I definitely echo that as well. The mock interviews are an excellent idea, whether it be on a platform such as Big Interview, which you get to be a little bit more interactive, or whether it's just simply reading interview questions off of Google and answering them out loud to yourself. That's a great way to prepare. Another thing, too, that I learned as I recently was going through a job search after grad school was just be patient. It takes time to get through the process with any organization, especially with the uncertainties still lingering from COVID. So just be patient. It took me 3 months from the beginning of my application process to finally landing a job. So just have that patience and leeway with yourself, and don't lose sight of the values and the things that you want out of a job just because time is passing by. If you have the opportunity to take more time and really find something or a job that you're passionate about, take that time. Because at the end of the day, you're signing a contract with an organization and you want to be excited about that opportunity. So yeah, I'd say be patient. And a great tip that a friend gave me was when applying for jobs, apply to at least one that you really don't want and use that as a practice interview so you can get those jitters out. And that was a great tip.
I like that. That is a really good tip. Personally, I'm still in grad school, so I haven't had to jump into the job application process. So I get to push that off for a couple of years. However, there are some tips that I think went really helpful for my grad school application process that would serve you well for job as well. So the best tip that I could give is connections. And by that, I mean with your undergraduate professors. So as I was going into grad school, I knew a little bit about the application. I knew a little bit about the process, but I had semi-regular meetings with 2 faculty in the sociology department who really kind of told me what to expect. And they looked over my personal statement and they looked over my CV and just kind of made sure it looked good and kind of just helped guide me through that process, which was really incredibly helpful. And all of you could have those connections as well. It's not just that, oh, I was a really good student. It's that I took the initiative to speak to those professors and to make connections. And one of them was my internship coordinator and one of them was my honors thesis advisor. And so I was able to just kind of make those connections relatively naturally based on how well I just kind of connected with the professor. So connections are really key, and they can help you with job interviews, with knowing people in the field that you're interested in. Professors can surprisingly help you out a lot. And I'm going to give a little bit of a personal anecdote. I have a boyfriend who went to USF as well, and he was currently looking at a analyst position with the government. And he had a professor that taught a very specific class, but it was basically about writing briefs for the government. And he didn't really speak with the professor in class. It was kind of an online format, and he just didn't really speak with the professor. But I encouraged him to find her email and just kind of reach out. And it ended up causing an awesome conversation. They talked for about an hour about what to expect with the interview. He had a writing brief that he had to do, and she kind of coached him through how to write that. And so even if you're nervous, he was nervous. He had to find her LinkedIn and send her a LinkedIn message. Like, that's a little bit, it takes a little bit of, it's a little risky, but, take that push. It's not going to be bad. It's like at all. The worst they can do is ignore you, and then that's not the end of the world. Or it could serve really, really well and for your benefit. So that's my little personal anecdote. The worst thing y'all could do, I would say, is procrastination on being prepared. If there's any like writing samples or anything you need, I would say don't procrastinate that. Get a head start on that as well. And yeah, just be patient. It can take a while.
That's awesome. Thank you both so much. I think it's one of the best things just about college, and specifically USF, is there's just thousands of people that genuinely want to help you, and they want to get you to a position where you can reach your goals and your dreams. And like, it sounds corny, but there's so many people that we genuinely do care about you all and want you to succeed in whatever that looks like for you. And so, and I think also for some of you that are maybe applying for student positions now, or executive boards for organizations or clubs, like they said, like, really try to put yourself out there and be bold. But if for whatever reason you do get a no, or not right now, don't take that personal. You have no idea what that reason could be. And I think it's a good thing to do to ask what it was, what you could have done better, or what was their perspective on your interview, or what about you, what didn't fit for the position, because it's never personal. And so always try to reach out and get that feedback, because I think that just looks good for you. And also it's a great way to like live and learn, and you make meaning out of that attempt, because that attempt wasn't for nothing. You put yourself out there, you tried for this position. That's awesome that you did that as well. But then actually get the feedback of what you could do better, and make that a learning experience, and actually put some meaning on that as well too. And so I think, kind of going off of some of the things they said about just the culture of graduate school and coming, like, what are some big differences, or what are some big things when you started graduate school or you started your career that was just a lot different culture than these students they're feeling in undergraduate right now?
Yeah, so kind of tying in a bit of Andrew's question about the classes themselves. I know in my program, they were very discussion based. It was almost student-led discussions in some of our courses, which I really enjoyed, because it gave us an opportunity to speak about our perspectives of the reading material and what we thought about the research, while being guided by our professor as well into, what this means as it relates to jobs and real world application. And so that was definitely a perk of graduate school classes. And in terms of the difference between undergrad culture and graduate school culture, with the university that I attended, we had a cohort model, and that essentially is a group of X number of students go through the program together, however many years it is. So my cohort was a size of 14 students, including myself. And so we moved through the 2 years of that program together, which was amazing. It created that familial support system that I was looking for, especially being in Tennessee when a lot of my family and friends are in Florida. So it definitely kept me grounded. It helped me to be able to relate to and rely on other people in the program who were experiencing similar difficulties or challenges with just living in Tennessee or just going through the program, because it was extremely rigorous. And so that cohort model just felt like a sense of family, as well as the faculty members too. You have that opportunity to be in more direct contact and have more interpersonal interactions with faculty member in a graduate program, because you're a little bit closer to them, especially too if it's just a terminal master's. So if it's just a program that just has a master's, no PhD, those master students are getting all the undivided attention from that professor. So that's something to consider as well too when you do apply to graduate school. Is there a PhD and a master's? Because that attention is going to be a little bit divided at that point. But yeah, it was definitely very family oriented. Definitely felt like I had a significant support system up there.
that's the awesome thing about grad schools. They are so much smaller than undergraduate programs. And I know at USF, I know psych is a pretty big major. I know sociology is a little bit on the smaller side, but still significantly smaller when you enter into grad school because not a lot of people take that step. So for me, my cohort is 8 people, including myself. And we have a little group chat. We share, we complain about the classes. We, talk about like, oh my gosh, that reading was so boring, or, oh, I really liked that one. We have a class where we have to do surveys, so we'll send that to each other. Just very big community based. And I love that. And I know that I'm, unless anything happens, unless people, leave the program, I'm going to be with those people for the next 5 years, which is really awesome to have that sense of community as well. So undergrad, I would say, doesn't necessarily, it encourages making friends, and that's obviously very important, and those connections are important, but it doesn't give you that amazing, like, on a platter, here's your community, be friends with these people. You're going to be around them a lot, so you might as well learn to like them. And they're all great people, so that's not a hard feat at all. But that's what I would say is a big difference from undergrad and grad school, other than the workload and other than the independent study, which I did mention before, so I don't want to be redundant. The community and just everybody wants to see you succeed, including your cohorts. It's not competitive at all. And also something that I would think that I'm still working on kind of transitioning is the mentality, like, you don't need to be as stressed about your grades. And I know that's a bit controversial to say, but you really don't. I had a professor give us a pep talk the other day talking about how once you get your PhD, nobody's going to ask you what your GPA was. Nobody's going to ask you, oh, what grade did you get in this research methods course your first semester? They see that you got a PhD and that you've reached that hurdle, and they're happy. So kind of shifting, like undergrad, grades are really important. That GPA is really important to get you through the door of the next step, which is grad school or a job or anything like that. But, you kind of have to shift away, you want to do well in your classes, but you don't need to freak out if you have an A- or a B or anything like that. So I would say that's something that I'm still personally working on, just kind of shifting the mentality, but it helps you out in the long run.
I totally agree. And I think that, there's a lot of undergraduate professors that are like this, but it really is in graduate school about the learning. Like the grades they're there, but they want you to learn and understand the material so that you can go and put it out into the world and make it practical as well too. And yeah, some of my best memories are from graduate school, or like they're talking about the family feel, the cohort. I have a couple students, my students that I teach in here right now, so don't get any ideas, but I remember all the time we would, as a cohort in a group text, come together and be like, all right, we got to get them to extend this paper for a week, so we all got to do this together. And so we'd always come in and do it. And the professors, grad school, they're like, I don't care, like whatever you guys want. But we'd always get nervous and come together. And so no one get any ideas in my class, but there's always some fun times like that inside and outside the classroom with them. And I think we would love to hear from some of you all as well too, just about maybe what you're interested in majors, where you want to be involved in on campus, what resources, have you enjoyed anything about USF so far that we can kind of talk on as well too. And while we wait a second, if Rachel, Kelsey, you want to put your email in the chat if you're able to as well. Or Kelsey, if you can't with the guest access, I can try to. I'll put mine in here as well too. So after the session today, because we are getting close to wrapping this up, if you have any questions at all from Rachel, Kelsey, or myself, feel free to email us and we'll get back to you. But again, 3 people that are happy to help you. Awesome. Thank you both so much for putting that in there. Any other questions or things on people's minds, or? Hey, Bianca, thanks for joining us today. If you have any questions, feel free to shout them out. I think one other thing that I was curious of, and I think it's just like we kind of talked about how important it is to talk to people about their experiences. I guess for you two, what's your next step? I think, Rachel, you've talked about it a little bit, but what's your next step after graduate school or in your career? Or where's your head right now in thinking about that next step? Because I think that's always helpful for people as well, too, to see it through what you're doing.
Yeah, well, right now I'm currently just starting out my new career with the consulting firm that I'm working with. But when I think 3 to 5 years from now, I'm hoping to go back for my PhD. But I still need to have some conversations with people in my organization just to see if that's going to add value to myself and to my career in getting that PhD. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. Hopefully a promotion within those next couple of years as well would be nice. But yeah, that's kind of what I see in the future.
So yeah, I'm pretty locked in for the next 5 years or so. I'm getting my master's in not this year, but at the end of the next year, and then around 3 years to work on my dissertation and then get my PhD. My long-term goal is to become a professor. I'm super interested in teaching. I love connecting with students, and that's just something that I'm really excited about. I still get to have to figure out whether or not I want to do more research-based or more just teaching-based, because I do love that connection as well. So I have to figure that out personally, but my long-term goal is to become a professor. And I know in today's job market, sometimes it's a little bit tricky to get there. So if after 5 years I'm having a hard time, or if I just choose to do this, there's also something called postdoctoral research, which is basically you get paid to do an extra year of study and work on publications and stuff like that. So I am definitely considering that, depending on where life takes me. But yeah, feel free to follow along. Feel free to send me emails. I'll be at FSU for the next 5 years, and I'd be happy to help with anything along y'all's journeys.
That's awesome. Thank you both so much. And for me, I'm kind of the same way. I finished my coursework for my PhD this semester. So next year I have to look forward to a qualifying exam or proposal, a dissertation, and then eventually defense. So it's like as soon as you can see the light for coursework and a PhD, it goes away, and then you have to find it again for the writing as well too. So I'm in that process, but just feel really lucky that I ended up in higher education because I really do love working for the students and helping them kind of get to the place where they need to be to succeed and reach their dreams. That really does fulfill me. Again, as corny as it sounds, like there's so many of us that really is that what makes a job for us is you all succeeding and reaching your goals and dreams. And we talked about finances earlier as well too. I think when you get a job, also always explore what options they have for some sort of employee tuition program. So I worked for USF, so it was kind of a no-brainer after a year or two of getting my feet under me. My position was like, okay, start the PhD program, because it's actually completely free for me. And so through USF, they pay for 6 credit hours a semester for employees. And so I started off just not sure if I wanted to do the PhD. I wasn't sure if that's what I wanted in my life right now. It's like, okay, do I need to cut all my hobbies so I can do this PhD? And so I dipped my toes in non-degree seeking, and USF paid for that. And then I realized, yep, this is absolutely what I want to do. And so I was able to do a full course load of 6 credits a semester, and USF pays for it. So I got my master's and my PhD for free. And I know there's thousands of people just like me that are doing the same thing. That means that you all can do that as well too, if those are your dreams. But even if it's not a university, a lot of companies offer some sort of employee tuition program for certificates, for degrees, or even if it's you just getting in the classroom and getting some relevant material for your career or a new skill. I think, like we all know, there's jobs in 2 or 3 years that are going to exist that aren't even they don't exist right now that soon. And so if you go 5, 6, 7, how many other jobs are going to come that aren't even thought of or are present right now? And so I think just always going back to the classroom or seeing what your job or company can give you the opportunity to continue to learn and be a better professional, be a better person. I think there's always value there. But before we wrap it up, oh yeah, go ahead, Rachel. Yeah.
Can I jump in just real fast?
Yeah,
I just want to say that it doesn't. Thank you. I just wanted to say that it also doesn't have to be job-based as well. That's an amazing route to take, but I know some programs, it's really, really tricky to be doing full-time, and for FSU full-time is like 10 credits a semester, and I know that's a lot. And so I'm not working right now, and that's a lot to be doing just as is. So I recommend taking a look at programs as well. Like I said, with mine, it's fully funded. In exchange, I kind of do work with the school by serving as a teaching assistant or a research assistant every semester. And that's a really good program as well. And a lot of schools do that. A lot of universities and institutions do that as well. So I just wanted to say that as an additional opportunity.
Yes, thank you so much. Yep. A lot of people I'm with school with as well too, they're taking, there's no way they're taking 12, 10 to like 15 credit hours. That's a lot of work for graduate school and a PhD program to be taking that many. Because when you think of undergraduate, you think, okay, 3 hours of studying per hour of class, something like that. I mean, it goes up so much when you go to graduate school with all the writing and so it's just a different beast. And so that's why master's, same thing. I was full-time master's student. And so I think there's feelings you can get of other people, at least for me personally. And so I personally felt other people starting their careers, and I started to feel behind a little bit, honestly, of, okay, I'm a full-time, but that's really not what it is. It took me some time to kind of get over that barrier and see that that's not that's not a negative at all. And that was really, I couldn't have done the master's program if I wasn't full time. I was giving myself the space and capacity to be fully engaged and I fully put myself in it. And I think once you get into grad school, you see the highs and the lows of all of those feelings. And I couldn't have done it outside. Yep, exactly. Full-time school is a full-time job. All right. Well, thank you, Kelsey and Rachel, so much for joining us today. I'm glad you all could hear from these two amazing people. Is there any other final questions or anything that you all have for Kelsey or Rachel before we wrap it up today? And we do appreciate you all coming. Even if we didn't get to see a lot of your faces, just seeing those names and seeing you all present today, we appreciate it. And thank you, Andrew, too. Yeah, there he is, typing again. Thank you for all the questions and being so present today. We appreciate it. And again, you have all three of our emails. So if anyone needs anything, at least me, I'm not always the right person. I don't have all the answers, but I feel like I know someone that can get you the answers at USF. I've been here so long. So please feel free to reach out to us if you need anything at all in the future. And with that, I think thanks for coming today. I appreciate it, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.